We are still going to discuss quadratic functions. So we have our standards up here. We will recognize that the quadratic function has different equivalent representations, all of which are, this is expanded form or general form. This is our vertex form and or standard form. And this is our intercept form. Speaking of specifically our x-intercepts, our solutions and or zeros to the quadratic. Now, again, we can already recognize the quadratic in function form, and we will continue to work on recognizing the different quadratic representations. We will recognize the general form. Again, we will identify the y-intercept of a quadratic function. We will solve quadratic equations by taking square roots. So we are just going to build on our quadratic functions. Now, we're still going to do all of this, but specifically today, we are going to start putting, all of these are quadratics. 1 through, I think 10, yeah. 1 through 10 are all quadratic equations. Actually, they're all specifically quadratic equations that are in expanded form, or they can be manipulated to put it in expanded form. Now, we are setting ourselves up to get ready to solve quadratic equations other than just using square roots. Now, I will quickly, just briefly, roll down here. Okay, our directions here are to solve using square roots. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. This is just a recap of what we've done. We get 5k squared equals 45. Now from here, we have to isolate my variable, okay? Divide both sides by 5. So k squared equals 45 divided by 5, which is 9. Now I don't want k squared, I want k. So in order to get k by itself, I take the square root of both sides. The square root of k squared is k, but the square root of 9 is a positive or a negative 3, because a negative 3 times a negative 3 is a positive 9. Positive 3 times a positive 3 is also a positive 9. So our variable k could be a positive 3, it could be a negative 3. This is in our work. Now, we have to write our answer in the proper form. The proper form is our set notation from least to greatest, negative 3, comma, positive 3. So this is what we did last week. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to continue to do some of these. However, we are just getting ready to solve using other methods. Now, we are not going to solve using other methods today. We are going to get ready to solve. Now, this one right here, 3r squared minus 5r equals 3. We cannot solve it like it is. We cannot solve it doing square roots unless we complete the square, which we'll get to that at some point. Today, what we're going to do is we're just going to take each one of these and we're going to make one side equal to 0. Each time, every time, all the time. And I'm going to tell you right now, we want to always try to work with a positive leading coefficient. So right now, 3r squared is positive. We have minus 5r. 3 is on the other side all by itself, our constant. I need to move that 3 to the other side. So to get this positive 3 to be a 0, I do the opposite. I do the additive inverse. Minus 3 here, minus 3 there, my handy dandy line. And again, I'm going to put my equation in proper form, highest exponent to lowest exponent. I have a positive 3r squared, a negative 5r, minus 3 equals 0. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get everything over to one side of the equation, of the equal sign. We're going to get everything over. Once we get everything over, this is called the quadratic form or the quadratic equation, okay? The quadratic equation says I have ax squared plus bx plus c equals, and that's a lowercase c, I need to be careful, plus c equals 0. A is the coefficient of your quadratic term. Your quadratic term is your x squared. B is the coefficient of your linear term. Your linear term is your variable with the exponent of 1. C is your constant all by itself. So we are taking each one of these and we are putting them in a quadratic equation form. We're getting ready to solve using other methods, and in order to use other methods, one side needs to be 0 for some of those, okay? So we have this one side's equal to 0. So part B of this, and I didn't finish typing the directions, but we will. Part B, we're gonna identify the value of A, the value of B, and the value of C. So this is one part of my answer, and then the next part of my answer. My A value is the coefficient of X, that would be 3. My B value is the coefficient of Y, and remember, we keep the signs with the numbers. That's a -5. And my C is the constant number all by itself. That is a -3. That is all you're going to do on your first 10. Your first 10, you're gonna get one side equal to 0, and you're gonna identify A, B, and C. So we did number 1, now we're also going to do number 2. Again, we have to have one side equal to 0. Right now, that right side is a 4x. I need that 4x to go away, additive inverse. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna subtract 4x from both sides. And remember, I can only combine terms that are alike. So I have a positive x squared, I have a -4x, and a positive 3 equals, these are additive inverses, that is 0. I needed one side equal to 0. Next thing I'm going to do is identify my value of A, my value of B, and my value of C. My A value is my leading coefficient, the number in front of my quadratic term. That is an understood 1. We have a positive 1a squared. Then B is the coefficient of my linear term. My linear term is a -4x. The coefficient is a -4. C is my constant, my number all by itself. That's 3. That's all you're going to do is get one side equal to 0, identify A, B, and C on the first 10. That's all you're going to do on the first 10. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do number 4. Actually, I could do 3 and then 4. So, because it's the same. So I can do 3 and 4 and then we'll be good. So if I look at number 3, now on number 3, one side's not equal to 0. So I told you to always try to work with a positive leading coefficient. So I'm going to subtract 64 from both sides, my handy dandy line. I have p squared minus 64 equals 0. So we did that. P squared minus 64 equals 0. The next step, I identify my A value, my B value, and my C value. My A value is the coefficient of my quadratic term. Quadratic term is the one with the exponent of a 2. So the number in front of my p squared is an understood 1. That is an understood 1. So A equals 1. B is the coefficient of my linear term, my term with the exponent of 1. I don't have just a p. So what number would we multiply to make it completely go away? That would be 0. So B is 0 because I have no linear term. I don't have a middle term. C's the constant, the number all by itself. That would be a -64. So be cautious. A is the coefficient of my quadratic term, the term that is squared. B is the coefficient of my linear term, the coefficient of my variable to the first exponent. And C's the constant all by itself, okay? So we did 3, now we're gonna do 4. 4 already, it has one side equal to 0, so we're ready to just list our values of A, B, and C. So A, B, and C, because this is already one side is equal to 0, Already it's in proper form, highest exponent to lowest exponent. A is the coefficient of my quadratic term, the term that has a square on it. So I've got x squared, the coefficient of x squared is 4. Again, my b value, because it ended up just like this one, my b value is 0, my c is a negative 64. So not too bad at all. Now we are going to go ahead and jump down. I think I'm just going to hit number 6, and then we will call it good. If I look at number 6, again, we have to have one side equal to 0. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides, okay? I get a positive 9n squared, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in proper form. I've got a negative 9n and a positive 7 equals 0, because these are additive inverses. We need to make sure those are additive inverses. A value, B value, and C value. A is the coefficient of my quadratic term. Quadratic term is n squared. Coefficient of is 9. B is the coefficient of my linear term. My linear term is my variable with the exponent of 1, and that currently is a negative 9. So keep the sign with the number. This is a positive 9, negative 9. C, constant number all by itself, is a positive 7. A, B, and C. So quick, simple, and easy. That is all you have to do. And again, that's your first 10. The other questions you have in your homework reflect from last week. So be sure, if you need to refresh on how to solve quadratic using square roots, be sure and review that video as well. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.